What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Join us now as we look at this week's edition of Raw, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including the real reason why Big E won the WWE Championship. Yes, I did mark out completely, even though I didn't catch it live. And for those who are saying, why don't I stay up for Raw? Well, it ends up 4 AM in the morning. If I did that every week and catched every WWE show live, I'd be dead by now. But other than that, Drew McIntyre's embarrassing moment, is Benoit Unbanned in WWE, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we won't recap the matches, but just provide you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good, and it has to be up here as number one, Big E's big win. Massive congratulations to Big E on his well-deserved Money in the Bank cash-in. Big E has been downright dynamite as a single star, which shouldn't surprise anyone, as he's been considered the New Day member with the most potential for single success. The WWE has spent the last year building up the New Day's powerhouse up, and Big E has worked hard, taking advantage of the opportunity to get over with fans and show everything he can do in the ring and on the microphone. Big E's win is a good way to get fans talking about the WWE, and it creates some interesting booking possibilities in the next few months. Number 2, an almighty reign. Hats off to Bobby Lashley as well for a fantastic title reign as WWE Champion. Like Big E, Bobby Lashley has made the most of his singles push, which in his case began in early 2020, never taking anything for granted and working hard to improve. While Lashley's in-ring skills have been good, his microphone work was sadly lacking, and while talking isn't his strong suit, he's come leaps and bounds thanks to his association with the MVP. Hopefully there's more ahead for Bobby Lashley, as he's a true main eventer, and be ashamed to see him take a step back now that he's no longer WWE Champion. Number 3, an opening segment that actually worked. Last night's opening promo was an example of an exception that proves the rule. The WWE is known for its opening promos that take up far too much time and do little or nothing other than have fans reaching for the remote. Not so last night, as the WWE started things off with a confrontation between Lashley, Orton and Big E, with all three superstars making their intentions known. Lashley would retain his championship, Randy was changing the date of his match from Extreme Rules to throw Lashley off his game, and Big E was there to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Throw in some brief remarks from MVP and always hilarious Riddle as the WWE prepared the table for a must-see main event. Number 4, dialogue does something. Last night's segment where Randy Orton explained he was moving his Extreme Rules title shot to last night's Raw was an example of how a line or two can explain a change in the match or any other change in the show's format. Far too often, the WWE makes major changes without explanation, treating the fans like idiots. Not so last night, and the WWE should learn from this. Number 5, Damian Priest is going somewhere, and maybe Jeff Hardy is too. US Champion Damian Priest is definitely going places, and there may be some hope for Jeff Hardy too, as he battled Priest for the title in a competitive match that showed how much both superstars have to offer. The WWE needs to continue the Archer of Infamy's push and find him a strong opponent once his program with Sheamus ends. Archer has the exotic look and dynamic ring style that could make him a crowd favourite and even a main eventer at some point. As for Jeff, his best years are behind him, but he's better used putting opponents like Archer over rather than curtain jerkers like Reginald and Akira Tozawa. And 2 terrific tag matches. Last night's Raw showed some marvellous matchmaking as the WWE booked 2 excellent encounters, beginning with a 6-man tag match and later an 8-man tag match. Right now there are a number of superstars who are in limbo as they're currently out of the title picture but who need to stay in the spotlight. At the same time, there are stars like Veer, Shanky, Mansoor, T-Bar and Mace who might benefit from their presence in matches with big stars like Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles. These matches even had storylines driving them, which never hurts. Best of all, they were entertaining and a good way to let fans know who is on Raw and what they can do in the ring. But that was the good. What about the bad? Is number 1, please put Eva Marie out of the ring. Can Eva Marie stop getting into the ring and pretending that she's a qualified wrestler? She had no business wrestling during her last run in the WWE, and she even has less business now. Eva Marie's matches are an insult to every woman on the roster, as she clearly has spent no time training to improve herself, unlike superstars like Lana, who at least work hard to improve her in-ring skills to a watchable level. Eva is much better suited as a personality like manager or talk segment host. And an anticlimactic announcement. Now, as good as Big E's successful Money in the Bank cash-in was, the WWE ruined an opportunity for a huge surprise by having Big E announce that he was going to cash in on Raw. Yes, we know that WWE wanted to boost Raw's ratings due to Monday Night Football's season premiere, not to mention AEW Dynamite edging it out last week in the ratings, but nonetheless, cash-ins are supposed to be suspenseful, and this one had zero suspense, including the fact that Big E was going to win. Now, there was definitely nothing ugly about last night's show, other than a misfired ending which we'll get to later. While the focus of last night's show was the main event, the WWE did fairly well keeping the undercard entertaining. The WWE can't do a Money in the Bank cash-in every Monday, so the Red brand needs to step up every week. But for last night though, Raw did pretty well. What do you guys think of Raw? Let us know in the comments down below. Now, let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at why Big E cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase and became WWE Champion. Big E's successful Money in the Bank cash-in was well timed and it had some big implications not only for the New Day's latest member of the WWE Champions Club, but the WWE itself. Now, there was a couple of things, including him being a fresh babyface, as his win is long overdue as the WWE needs a strong babyface champion, and Big E has shown that he fits the bill. It also managed to help revive Raw, as its ratings have been lacking, and Big E's cash-in would have made a huge boost in the ratings. Not only that, but there are some new opponents where Big E's win presents new opportunities for heel challengers on Raw to chase the belt. Bobby Lashley has done a great job defending the WWE Championship, but he's wrestled all of the Red brand's main event babyface opponents. But let's look into the future, as a fantastic faction fight may be on the cards, as Big E's big win creates the potential for a huge showdown between the New Day and the Bloodline at Survivor Series. It's difficult not to see the New Day regaining the Raw Tag Team Championship or the Usos regaining the SmackDown Tag Team Championship until the WWE's next Big Four show. And saving face. Well, speaking of the Survivor Series, a Big E vs Roman Reigns match has money written all over it, but it's unlikely Big E would have been successful had he cashed in the briefcase against Roman, as the WWE doesn't seem intent on the Tribal Chief losing anytime soon. Now, the fans can see Big E battle Roman without Big E's cash-in being in vain. At the same time, it also spares Lashley from doing the job for Reigns. Next up is Benoit Unbanned in WWE. Chris Benoit, a talented wrestler whose in-ring career has been eclipsed by the horrific tragedy of his wife and young son, resulting in the WWE working hard to minimize its mention of Benoit other than his wrestling matches, resulting in Benoit being completely blacklisted from WWE. But according to former WWE employee Marie Shadows, it all depends on Mr. McMahon's mood. Speaking with the Perched on the Top Rope podcast, Shadows revealed,
"Because I understood where they were coming from, because I was even frustrated with some of the rules that they put in place. I remember like the first week I was there, you know how Chris Benoit is a very touchy subject, and we have to go through lots and lots of footage, and you know, depending on what they assign you, you have to like really be careful about like what you put for the SEO. So for 1 week it was like Chris Benoit is okay, so make sure to tag Chris Benoit. Week number 2, the bosses come in and they're like, oh no, Vince doesn't want that. Vince wants you to change it up. So.
Vince being Vince, Shadows talked about how things change from week to week.
And then the 3rd week came and they were like, it's okay now. And then the 4th week, they were just like, all right, never mind. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of everything.
Now, whilst you won't see any Chris Benoit merchandise or a Hall of Fame induction, having him not mentioned at all, especially in huge milestone matches, is a bit ridiculous. They don't have to praise him, but at least mention it. Next up, a huge botch on Raw. Fans tuning into the Nikki Ash vs Tamina bout saw a huge flop finish as Nikki landed a tornado DDT on Tamina, covering up for the pin, and Tamina kicking out as the referee made the 3 count. Some fans likely felt they'd tuned into the Twilight Zone as Tamina's music then played and then she was announced the winner. While the announcers clarified things afterwards, revealing Nikki had indeed won, there was considerable confusion about what happened. According to Wrestling Inc., it appears Tamina was supposed to win the bout, but an audible was called due to Nikki possibly getting injured. And finally, Drew's embarrassing moment. Last but not least, a WWE live event in Washington DC nearly turned naughty when Drew McIntyre prepared for a match against Jinder Mahal. The two were scheduled for a street fight, but it almost became a streak fight as the Scottish Warrior struggled to remove his kilt. At one point, Drew even joked with the fans, asking if they might help. But there you have it guys, the good, the bad and the downright ugly from this week's Raw, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.